Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to us. We hope it is good. Welcome to episode number 45 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California, joined across the country by my best friend in the entire world, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Ray, I'm doing great. Episode 45. We are going to make podcasts great again. You can do whatever you want with that at home. You can come to assumptions. What do you think? What's that mean? It doesn't mean anything. We're going to make podcasts. Keep podcasts great with 45. And I don't know if you can see this at home, but my half-finished podcasting studio is almost done, but the show must go on. It is not done, but I am ready to do this podcast today. And let's be honest, if you're listening to this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So it works out either way for me. Ray, it's been raining here in Philadelphia for 2 days, but it's been the mildest winter I've ever experienced on memory. I know we've had these before, but not much snow. With that said, I want to give a shout out to the Midwest, who's covered in snow and dealing with negative 40-degree temperatures. Once again, proving none of us know anything that's going to happen. So live in the moment. Keep podcasts great. Ray, back to you.
Yes. Yes, we're coming to you a day later than we were anticipating because I slept through my alarms yesterday.
Well, maybe they're listening to this late. You don't know.
Oh, that's fair. I know.
Yeah, for those of you at home, why didn't you listen to this earlier, huh?
Yeah.
Huh? What's up with that? I don't know what day it is. It ends in Y, and you should have been listening to this yesterday. Unless it's Wednesday, in which case you're right on time.
Yes. It was also it's also a very mild winter here in LA, but that's kind of the norm. It's shorts weather now.
Winter
officially. It's the low 80s the past couple of days. So
poor you.
Yeah.
Poor you.
Yeah. So and also I got this is interesting. I'm testing out a new internet service. I got rid of Spectrum. This is my new internet. Now this is all. So if there's any issues with the video, it's the new service. It's not the old service.
You should just blame me. It's Lee's fault.
I mean, it is usually your fault, but sometimes
I'm in Comcast country.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, unfortunately, as we all know, or most of us know, Comcast is one of the worst, if not the worst, cable internet providers in the country. They are terrible.
As a Philadelphia sports fan, I'm obligated not to say anything.
Yes, because they own everything. At least in terms of Philadelphia sports.
Namaste.
Yes. We got a great show planned for you guys today. We're going to talk very briefly about Fury versus Wilder. We got XFL updates, NHL Trade Deadline, potentially new NFL rules. We've got the announcement of Star Wars High Republic.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, yes, exactly. We'll speculate. Catwoman is now pregnant in DC Comics, but first...
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
What the hell is that today? Sorry.
Speaking of what the hell is that,
Go ahead.
Our first thing.
Ray is putting on his hat. For those of you listening, Ray just put on a blue spiky hat, which means we're talking about
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Beep, 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 beep. I can't do the ring sound, but ring sound here. Insert ring sound here.
But no. So we briefly touched on Sonic last week, but this week we're going to do our spoiler cast. Lee still has not been able to see it. His family went without him, and he has not found time and able to go see it. So similar to what we did with Terminator, I will kind of carry most of this and
Ray, hit the pause button real quick. I want to give a quick shout out to my wife and family who took my children to see Sonic without me, henceforth ruining my opportunity to see it. Because this is the sad truth of being a parent. It's not sad at all. Is that when your wife selfishly takes the children to see Sonic the Hedgehog, it's tough for you to justify how to see it. So now I have to wait for it to come out on a digital release, right? But Janet, if you're listening, which you're not, I want you to know that I love you very much, and I'm quite too scared to say anything negative about you. You're a wonderful person, and I'm so glad that I'm with you. Thank God. I'm done. Unpause.
Yes. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so everybody loves Jan.
Everybody loves
Jan. So we're gonna talk about Sonic today. Look, we mentioned it last week. It did everything it needed to do. It hit all the right notes. It looked good. It starts off very much. It's how does Sonic get to Earth? It's got that emotional core. Sonic's by himself. He can't show himself.
Spoilers. This is a spoiler.
This is Spoilercast. Yes, this is the Spoilercast.
Spoiler.
Yes. So I'm only. This is only the very beginning of the movie, but yes, Spoilercast.
Okay,
tell me. Sonic.
I want to know what happens, Ray. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to drink my tea. Tell me about the movie, please. Go.
Yeah. So Sonic basically spends 10 years on Earth, grows up on Earth completely in hiding by himself, and he starts to get a little stir crazy, right? And he starts to get lonely, and he starts, he's playing games with himself, including he plays baseball with himself. It's actually a very fun scene. We also it's revealed that Sonic is a lefty. At least I should say he's a lefty throwing, but he hits righty, so he throws left, bats right. Yeah, so
okay,
which does yes.
Wait,
so,
how did he get to Earth? Like, how does he get over here?
So they also explain the significance of golden rings. The golden rings act as gateways between planets. So the person who is taking care of Sonic on his home planet, which we assume is Morbius, basically people keep trying to kidnap Sonic on his home planet, which look like the Echidnas. It looks like the Echidnas, which is Knuckles' race. Yeah. That they're trying to kidnap Sonic because of his immense power, which of course also hints at the idea that there's something that maybe later on it has something to do with the Chaos Emeralds, right? The Echidnas are the canonical guardians of the Chaos Emeralds. The fact that they want Sonic for some reason means that he resonates with the Emeralds or whatever, and so Sonic's caretaker gives him a bag full of golden rings and uses one to be like, go to this planet called Earth. They're primitive. They're on the other side of the universe, but you'll be safe there.
So wait. So stop right there. First thing, if you're listening to this, one thing you just realized is that Sonic canon goes much deeper than you probably realized.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two is that that sounds pretty on par with at least the video game Sonic world, the things that you've just said.
Yes.
So there's a deeper canon here than you probably realize. Ray knows it because we're geeks who like sports. And Sonic has come to Earth, a primitive people. I love it how we're always primitive. Maybe you know why they don't make movies about one worthy of the bigger race, because we're not. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like every other race seems to have figured out like intergalactic travel except for us.
Of course.
So
idiots.
Yes, exactly. And of course, Sonic lands in Green Hills, Montana. And of course, he's constantly messing around with like speed traps and speed zones. Wink, wink.
Get it?
Yeah, and so he starts playing baseball with himself, and he gets emotional. And when he gets emotional, he lets out this massive wave of energy because he's going faster and faster and faster. He kind of breaks the sound. He breaks the sound barrier and he creates kind of like a sonic boom. But it's so big it acts like an EMP and knocks out power in like almost like half the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
This brings the attention of the U.S. government, who has in their employ Dr. Robotnik. Yes. And so Robotnik, and Jim Carrey, you can't talk about his performance enough. Jim Carrey is, it's classic Jim Carrey. He chews up the scenery. He's over the top. It's hysterical. It's so fun. He's so quick in delivering his lines. It's a joy. It's just really fun to watch him.
Is it like classic, like Ace Ventura level Carey?
It's like Ace. It's closer to Ace Ventura than not.
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome.
So
which makes sense for the time period of this game, if you think about it.
Time period of this game, for the characters, everything. Like it really makes sense. So Robotnik, starts to find the evidence of Sonic and everything. He finds like a blue quill. Like he knows Sonic is there somewhere. Sonic has enlisted the aid of a local police officer. Who
Cyclops.
Yes, James Marsden, Cyclops, who also actually does very well in this movie in terms of comedic timing and the heartfelt scenes, and then the idea that he's going to leave Green Hills, Montana, and he's going to go to San Francisco. He's going to go to the big city, finally be a big city cop. This way he can actually protect people and help people and not just, get cats out of trees. And they do this whole montage of him just doing very low level cop work, right?
Love it.
Yeah, so when Sonic's like, I need your help, I need you to save my life, it triggers a thing in Marsden where he's like, the hero in him is like, okay, I will save you.
Cyclops.
Yes, yes, exactly. And they begin this fun cross country trek to get to San Francisco, and they even explain it. He's like, why am I driving you to San Francisco? Because he's like, I'm not from Earth. I don't know where San Francisco is. Yeah. Oh, no, that's the other reason. The reason why they have to go to San Francisco is because Sonic, while being chased by Robotnik, loses his rings, and the rings end up teleporting themselves. He drops a ring, and it opens up. He hears and he sees James Marsden talking about San Francisco, and he opens up basically a ring to San Francisco. The rings fall into this hole, and Sonic's like, uh-oh. So the reason why they have to go to San Francisco is to get Sonic's rings, because if somebody else finds them, obviously this is intergalactic travel. The Earth, the apes are primitive. They cannot handle this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, of course, Robotnik is hot on their trail. Awesome scenes on the highway. Robotnik with all these robots coming after them. And then Sonic starts doing his classic Sonic stuff. He learns he can pinball off of the machines and he can take them out.
That's awesome.
So he's learning his powers and his abilities that we know him from the games, because he's never had to use them before offensively. They get to San Francisco. Robotnik, using Sonic's own quill, powers one of his machines so that he's just as fast as Sonic, and it's amazing. There's a couple of times this happens in the movie. I'm not going to give everything away. Where basically it's like the Quicksilver scenes from the more recent X-Men movies. The whole world stops, and Sonic is just running around, messing with everything. They do it like 3 times in the film, but the one in San Francisco is the most epic because it's the chase scene. There's explosions everywhere. There's a couple of nice Easter eggs, including one of the streets in San Francisco fictionally being named Mega Drive. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I get it.
Yes. So, and then finally, Sonic gets his rings back. He brings the fight back to Montana because there's not a lot going on there.
So he teleports them back or something.
He teleports them all back.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then Sonic basically goes Sonic pinball on Robotnik and just starts ping-ponging off this last robot. Opens up one more ring.
Back to
And actually, he just opens it up to a planet that he jokes is like this isolated, desolate mushroom planet, as in like who would ever want to go to a mushroom kingdom?
I get it. I get it. Taking a shot at Mario.
Yes. So, and then he knocks Robotnik in through this portal, closes it, and then that's how it kind of ends, where Sonic is now best friends with the cop, and they're kind of they're kind of all fun and stuff, and then and then it ends with 2 things. A, we see Robotnik, head shaved, mustache all bushy, as he's surviving on this planet, and he basically is like, he is the greatest mind the universe has ever known, and he's like, for most people, this would be the end. I'll be home by Christmas. It's that, and then of course we get the big Easter egg in the credits, the end credits scene.
Okay, well, wait, let me prepare. I'm ready.
Tails shows up through a portal.
I love Tails.
And is like, he's got to be here. This is where all the energy signatures point to, insinuating that Tails will bring Sonic back to his home world. I imagine at this point the Chaos Emeralds are causing chaos. Probably Knuckles is the last of the Echidnas as the last great guardian, just like in the games. And then, of course, what's most fun is that now they're talking about The Rock playing the voice of Knuckles in the sequel.
Ooh. Which he'll do.
Yes.
Now.
Oh, that'd be awesome. So, yeah. So, I mean, overall,
wow. I love it.
It was great. I mean, it was spectacular. It was an hour and a half long. It was very digestible. I think it was like an hour 38. Like it was fun. It was entertaining. It got the lore right. It made it work in a way that made sense. It got Sonic right. His humor. He's a smart aleck. There's a couple other things too. Like he discovers chili dogs for the first time. Like there's like other little things that longtime Sonic fans of the Sonic cartoons will appreciate and learn and will pick up on the Easter eggs for.
Well, what a crazy I guess timeline this film has had From
Yeah.
the poster being released and people going, why are they making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie now? To the incredibly bad animation, which you should do. You should go on your phone right now and look up the before and after, because I actually forgot. I forgot how bad it was until I looked it up again.
Yeah.
Essentially saving this movie. Also, the greatest marketing of all time that was accidentally done.
Yep.
Right, to the movie being really good and then banking on people our age, Ray, that would go see this with their kids. Thus proving that Hollywood is a lot like the stock market. You never, ever know what's going to work. It can go up, it can go down, it can go left, right. Fairy dust. You just never know. I love that Sonic did well. I do. I think it introduced a whole new generation of people, including my son, to the game. I mean, I can break out my Sega now. I have a Genesis here. And we can play Sonic. 1, 2, 3, pinball, and then the 12 other games they made.
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles, yeah. So, love the Tails came out at the end. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, wow, that's good. And they'll make a sequel. So, really, I mean, think about if they didn't change the animation. Like, it's amazing to think about how this movie did so well and how, Ray, DC can't figure it out.
Yeah, DC can't seem to figure out anything they're doing on any front. That's
amazing.
a perfect transition into.
Is it, Ray? Is it a perfect transition?
Yes, it is a perfect transition. Yes. Oh man.
Feel good.
It was recently revealed that in Tom King's ever continuing Why Won't It End run on Batman. And working now with the Batman and Catwoman comic,
Why won't
actually.
it end run?
Yeah, like it just. I'm sorry, folks. I know there's a lot of folks who very much like Tom King's run on Batman, and also I will say this: not everything was his fault with his run on Batman. There's a lot of times where you could tell they were basically like forcing him to draw certain storylines out because the comic folks don't know what the heck they're doing. I mean, and that too, we should mention actually also very briefly. In terms of huge deal, Dan Didio, who was with DC for 18 years, was let go last week. That is a big deal, a very questionable decision. I don't know if Jim Lee can be the publisher by himself. We'll see. But this is, I guess, the first big thing happening under his watch is that now Tom King's like, hey, Catwoman's pregnant. Yay!
Yeah, just, you heard that right at home. They have impregnated Catwoman. The image that was showed was Catwoman in her full costume pregnant.
With a baby bump,
with Batman behind her on top of a skyscraper, which anyone who's a parent knows that's incredibly unsafe.
Yes.
I will be making a lot of parenting jokes during this. So look, I want to make sure we preface this a little bit because we're going to talk about this. I don't want anybody listening to think that we're like anti-pregnancy or the struggles that women go through.
It's just it's just this dumb story beat for comic books because they're so out of ideas.
Nothing we're about to say is anything to do with that. I just want to preface that because I know we talk about things sometimes. I want to make sure people know what we're talking about, but. What the hell?
I mean, this is
what is going on here?
This is jumping the shark, right? This is jumping the shark. This
is.
I mean, I get. Yes, I mean, I get.
That we'll be able to do.
I know. I mean, I guess, right? Like, of course, now Batman and Catwoman are back together, married, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, I guess yes, of course. Now comes a baby. Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's just so. You really can't think of anything else to do with these characters?
If there was ever a comic book character that should not have a child, it is Batman and Catwoman.
Yes.
Going past the psychological of stuff of that alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, Batman collects orphans. That's what he does.
Yeah,
he collects
there's that, right? He collects orphans. Yeah. I would say that his job is extremely hazardous.
Yeah.
I know he survived a long time, all right? But, there's that. Alfred's not getting any younger. Bruce has got to understand you can't just pass the kid off to your butler. We saw how well that worked out already.
Yes.
All right? Selena Kyle, not all there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is this. If a baby is born, Harley's coming after it. The Joker's coming after it.
Poison Ivy, Clayface, everybody.
Then you come down. What are you going to name this kid? What are you going to name it? Oh, let me guess. If it's a girl, we already know. Martha.
Yeah.
All right. We already
Why
got
did you
kid
say
named
that
Martha.
name?
Yeah, we got to name it Martha or Thomas if it's a boy.
Yeah.
Or you can go the other way with it, and start, giving it Robin names, which no.
God.
Well, and you know what they're having? They're going to give some stupid name. It's Bruce Jr.
Oh, that would be the worst.
Yeah. Who is this?
Ugh.
It's Kal-El, right? Again, Superman, Lois, baby, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Princess Peach, Mario, baby, makes sense.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I will say this. I mean, for a very long time, we always talk about Batman as the loner, but he does have the Bat family. He has Batgirl, he has all the Robins,
and that was uncomfortable.
Yes, no, that's true. Batman is and that's true, and that's a good point. Batman is typically at his best when he's by himself.
Yes, he's a detective. He needs a Holmes, not Robin.
Yeah,
like Nightwing was always the best anti-sidekick. Like I always liked it when Batman and Nightwing worked together because you have that aggression, you have the differing opinions on how to approach things. Mm-hmm. You do have a little bit of the big brother, little brother thing there. I've always liked it when Batman looked at Nightwing more of as a brother, not as a whatever.
A ward.
Yeah. Look, man. You're pushing the limits now. It's like I don't need this. I don't want this. It's a twist I don't want to look into. It also makes it a little too real. Like it's like like you're not gonna be able to mess with that kid. And it's like I don't want to read comics about kids getting abducted, and that's what's gonna happen.
Yep.
Right. The Joker's just gonna steal the baby. You know it. All right.
Yeah.
And they'll probably write in a twist of like he wants to care for the kid and this and that. It's like, guys, please don't do this.
Yeah. It's just.
It will ruin Batman Beyond too because there's no kids.
They'll name him Terry. They'll name the kid Terry.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. They probably shouldn't though. Don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. Please don't mess with that perfection.
This is just look. DC is out of ideas. The current leadership over there is at a loss. They're desperately trying to keep the comic medium alive. Like we've talked about this. Comic books, obviously, we love them. We grew up on them. But they are not as relevant amongst the media landscape that we exist in today as they once were. Obviously, the characters and the properties are, but they're so desperate trying to keep print comic books alive instead of just going fully digital. It's
what are you talking about, Ray? It's just storytelling. Go back to good storytelling. Stop trying to do the shock value thing. How about this, Ray? Every major shock value is a good question for you. By the way, if you are listening to this, comment. Let us know what you think about Catwoman being pregnant. Keep it respectful. Keep it smart. But honestly, just in terms of her being pregnant, comment below. Let us know what you think about that, or just email us. Whatever. Let us know.
Yeah.
This is the thing about comic books, and you are more of an expert on this than me. There have been very, very, very few, probably you can count them on one hand or less, shock moments in comic books that have lived up to their potential. And I'll give you examples. The death of Superman. The death of Superman was very, very, very good. Right? Yeah. The reign of the Superman was okay, and then what happened after that was not good. It did not do what DC wanted it to do long term. It did in the moment, right? First thing, right? Civil War, comic book Civil War, Marvel, not the movie. Again, really, really good, but did not have the long-term effect that people wanted. I could keep going. I remember Old Man Logan was a pretty big deal when that came out.
Yeah,
that was so good. But it was a one-off. It was the future. It was over when it was over. I remember back in the 90s, a big one was when Wolverine's claws got broke. I'm blanking on the guy who did it. He's the guy who could change things with his mind. It was not Apocalypse. There's another blue guy. Anyway. He gets Logan's claws to turn to bone, and then in this really famous scene, he stomps them and breaks them, which actually they did do that in one of the movies, which was a callback to that.
Right. That
was a huge deal. And I remember there's a really cool scene.
Liev Schreiber's Sabretooth did that.
Yeah, in the movie, yeah. But again, forgive me for not remembering who it was. This is probably 25 years ago. There's this great scene where Logan forgets that it happened because he had a little bit of amnesia, and he brings this broken claws out, rips his hand apart. It was really good, but then again, it's just you kind of come back from it pretty quick. Eventually, he gets him back. I think Magneto even gave him back the adamantium, right? So it's just I'm trying to remember other big shock moments. 52. None of them had the lasting effect that people wanted. It was all a cash grab,
Mm-hmm.
right? With again, Infinite Crisis would be in part of this, all of those. But like the Death of Superman is usually the top one.
Yeah.
But none of these tend to do what you want them to do, right? And
Yeah.
now you're sticking Batman with a kid forever,
Yeah.
right? And like that is a problem for me.
I mean, and the thing is that also all it means is that and the sad thing is that when this doesn't work,
Yeah.
you'll have some sort of event that retcons it, right? Like you'll have something that'll happen, some ridiculous thing, and then you're basically erasing a kid from existence. Like we've had 3 Superboys basically erased from existence, and now we've got Jonathan Kent again, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's
What are you doing?
It doesn't work. Some of these things just don't work. Stop trying to make them work.
Let me ask you 2 questions. Okay, so first off, is there another comic book big time thing like this that I didn't mention that worked that you can think of? I think Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths was very good.
I mean, Crisis on Infinite Earths was obviously massive retcon. I mean, that was the first real big event. That was also the first like big retcon, right, where it brought everything back together into one.
But it was good.
timeline.
What I'm saying, it was good. It was well done.
Yeah, no, of course it was amazing.
Right?
It's Marv Wolfman and all those other guys. Like it was fantastic. And I mean, Death of Jason Todd was big.
That was huge.
Especially because that was a fan vote. Like there was there's 2 timelines basically. One where
I do want to reiterate, we are talking comic books, not now. We are not talking film. Right? It's very, because they are very different when you're talking. Film can pull these things off better than comic books can.
Yeah.
All right, but like I can't think of another big one.
Yeah. No, I mean in terms of DC. I mean, if you're going Marvel, then obviously Age of Apocalypse, still with the X-Men, was still obviously very huge.
Yeah.
House of M was very big. But again, there's
just very few that we can look at with admiration. Like, man, I'm really glad they did that. And the thing is, like I said, you're entering somebody new into the DC universe that no one's asking for, right? At least not to my knowledge. Here's the thing, Ray, is when we look at comics, and again, you and I read comics a long time. For those of you if you don't read comics, you should check them out. Don't think of them as a kiddie pastime. Some of them are very good. Go read the classics.
Yeah.
All right. What I wish DC would do is go back to their roots a bit. I'm not going to say something bland like just be better at storytelling, because that's hard to do. Okay, but how about this? Maybe create some new villains. All right, maybe create some new conflict. All right, like we didn't talk about this. One of the best things in Batman history was when Hush came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Hush, who was a supervillain, who was very much tied into the past villains, but was a new villain. It was a good story. You bought into this right away. This person knows Bruce Wayne. It was really good, right? Create more villains. Even equate them to real world problems if you want to. People can relate to that.
Well, I mean, that's why I love when they brought the Arkham Knight into continuity.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah. It was very smartly done. It was very well done. It was Peter Tomasi. Like, I mean, it's like give us something interesting like that. Don't give us. This is just, like you said.
They're going to say it's evolution of the character, right? And I just, like, I don't need him to become a parent, man. I'm a parent. I don't want to see Batman changing diapers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
I
thing.
deal with that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, like, sometimes, yes, with the times and with certain subject matter and whatnot, the characters can evolve, but we don't need to see them evolve like this. No, at the end of the day, it's still a comic book. It's still an escape. We want to have fun. We want it to be an adventure. We don't care about him being a parent. It's escapism 101. Yeah.
I'm trying to escape. I'll tell you this, though, Ray. I bet you Selena Kyle, Catwoman, is the type of woman that would take her son or daughter to see Sonic without Batman.
Yeah, that's.
I bet you she's that mom that would take her child to see Sonic without her husband or baby daddy who wanted to see that movie. Why did you see that movie?
Oh, you'll see Sonic. You'll see.
Gotta save Sonic. Why did you see that movie?
So that's our thoughts on the latest goings on with Batman. It's kind of terrible. Most things. Say it. Like most things, surprise us. But I know. But at this point, you can't assume. I can't trust DC at all.
I mean, can you just imagine that? Like, Alfred, we have to get to. Shut up, Bruce. Alfred. Selena. Selena, the baby's crying. Well, take care of it. It's this type of shit we're gonna see.
Yeah. And the sad thing is there's such limited space in comic books now. Like, the fact that there's going to be comic book space wasted on that is just...
That over there is my gigantic penny. And that over there is the Bat Pod. And that over there is the 17 Batmobiles. And if you look up, you can see the Batwing. The Joker shot me in the Batwing with a big gun once. Daddy, can we see the rest of the cave? No! Not till you're older.
Not till you're older. Oh, God. So we started the segment mentioning Dan Didio has been let go of DC. Also, yesterday, Bob Iger steps down at Disney. That's a very big deal. Yeah. CEO, longtime CEO of Disney, will finish out his contract, and then at the end of 2021 will no longer be with the company. And also relinquishing all control. Like, he's basically taking on like a figurehead title for this last year, and then he'll step down.
Which is nice. It's the right way to transition out.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
and speaking of transitioning out, now let's talk about Star Wars. Star Wars The High Republic was announced.
What the hell is that?
I don't know.
It's the High Republic.
It's the High Republic.
It's all good in the Jedi hood.
Yeah, so it's set about 2 to 3 centuries before the Skywalker saga. Still, yeah. I mean, I will say this: I liked the High Republic more than the idea of just calling them the Old Republic.
It's overdone now.
Yeah. So I mean, but the idea that it's gonna have like a bit of a Wild West feel. It's gonna have a lot of adventures on the Outer Rim. They're saying. Yep. But the Jedi are still these galactic peacekeepers that they've been fabled to be, and that we've heard many tales of.
For those 1,000 generations, the Jedi were peacekeepers in the galaxy.
Yeah, and we're gonna go back a couple generations and see them, some of them in action. See them in action. Yes. So
before the Empire.
All we know is there's new characters. They mentioned a Walker Texas Ranger feel for some of them, which is interesting.
There's a Wookiee Jedi too. There's a Wookiee Jedi. There's new bad guys who they call kind of like Galactic Vikings. Yep. You saw that video too, huh?
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, like the question is what is this going to entail? It looked like books and comic books, at least to start, because they said that they are going to levy all of their properties, including Marvel, for this series. So you imagine comic books are coming. Obviously, also Disney's publishing arm. But will this result in Disney Plus television shows? Will this turn into a movie at some point? I imagine that will happen down the road, but I'd imagine they would start with printed material first to kind of see, because Kathleen Kennedy's big gripe is like, we don't have any more material to base anything off of. Yeah, I know. She's an idiot. Can't wait till she's gone too. So, I mean, yeah, it just, Star Wars, High Republic, a new era of Star Wars that has not really been explored a lot. It does make you wonder again how much of the Old Republic stuff that they've already done is being retconned and being completely wiped out. Obviously there's the long-running Old Republic MMORPG that was supposed to be considered canon. Like what's going to happen to a lot of the stuff that we've already had going forward, and where there's and maybe all that's still fine. Maybe this just fits in farther back on the timeline. So. Yeah, it's interesting. It's good to see, obviously. I mean, we knew more Star Wars stuff was coming, but Star Wars High Republic, we don't know exactly what it is, but it's here, or it's going to be here soon.
Yeah, I look at it a few different ways. One is that they were very clear, like they're trying to get away from the Skywalker time period. And they're not going to go into the future yet with that, which I think is gutless. I think that it would be cooler if we went into the future. Side note, they did do a comic run not too long ago with Cade Skywalker, who I think was 3 or 4 generations down the line from Luke. And he was not a good guy, and Luke would visit him. And that was a cool series because it was the future, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't want to mess with the future. They want to go in the past. So I have a feeling the High Republic will take place away from the Old Republic, and I think they would be smart to avoid it. Too many fans of that. They don't need to retcon it. It'd be like if you're going from Skywalker to the Old Republic, what are you doing? Go somewhere we've never been. There's thousands of years in there.
Yes.
I think it'll be interesting. As Ray said, We don't really know how they're going to release this. We do know there's going to be some comics out, but I also saw some animation that looked a lot like a visual for a cartoon or an animated series.
Storyboards and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so we do know that Clone Wars Season 7 is going to be the last Clone Wars season, obviously, as it runs right into Revenge of the Sith. And they're going to need to open up that animated arm once again, because they've been very successful with their Star Wars animation.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they do this. On a personal note, I really wish Star Wars would continue to delve into the dark. Not just the dark side, but the dark. The dark stories in Star Wars are so good. I really believe you can make a rated R film with like Darth Bane, and people would go to see it. The dark side stories are always better than the light, because light side characters are extremely, extremely flawed. And their flaw is always not knowing and not seeing how that path is not good.
And they're often one-dimensional.
Almost always, right? So I would love to see Star Wars take a turn towards the dark. I mean, I think we've seen that can happen with The Mandalorian a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's not exactly dark. It's very much in the middle. But, I mean, it's so good. It's just so well done, so well written, because dark characters or bad guys in any world are always well received and well done and easier to write. So I'm interested to see what they do. I'm interested to see how they're going to connect me as a Star Wars fans to this, because as I hope they've learned, just throwing a lightsaber in someone's hands and saying they're a Jedi does not guarantee that I'm going to be interested, or the Star Wars fans are going to be interested. You have to have some sort of link to the Force. You have to have some sort of link to the way of things. I do like that we're going to see a little bit more of a primitive Jedi, it sounds like. Yeah. Where like they haven't really, they're just coming into this scenario where they're protectors of the galaxy and explorers, and kind of almost has a Star Trek feel to it, the way they were talking about it. But we'll see. As Star Trek and Star Wars seem to be doing one of these, going crisscrossing a little bit, I'm excited to see it. But nothing is more exciting to me in Star Wars right now than The Mandalorian. And I'm looking forward to Season 2 of that whenever it is released. Period.
Yes.
I have spoken.
Probably later this year. I mean, even that, like you say, like we could see new Force powers. Like we could see like all kinds of stuff. Like, I mean, I remember, like, obviously the Skywalker saga. They're the end of the Jedi. Like, and there's a lot of stuff that even during that era has not been explored.
Point. That's a very good point, Ray. That's often under discussed. That is the end of the Jedi. People don't talk about that enough, and the Sith, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it's the end of Force users. Like, I mean, and then Luke tried to fix that, and then, well, we all know what happened with that. And
I was a mighty Skywalker blood. I am so well written in this movie.
Now all that's left is Rey.
Well, and actually, according to canon, she just lives on her own and doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's it. Brought balance to the Force by stopping the Jedi and the Sith. So they're extinct. Cool. That's fun. Yeah. So fun. Awesome.
Until they return.
Yeah, I know. It's for the quest for more money. Yeah. Oh man, God, Mel Brooks is so right. Yes. But anyway, speaking of the quest for more money, the NFL CBA is up now. Right now, the collective bargaining agreement
changes,
and it is being discussed right now. Some new rule changes to extend the season. And the players, the owners are all for it. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. But the players are mixed. So I guess let's begin by explaining what the proposed rule changes are.
Well, and the postseason too.
Yes.
We got to talk about that too. Go ahead.
Yeah,
keep listening.
So the 4 preseason games would be cut to 3.
Yes.
The 16 regular season games would then become 17. So same amount of games, but one that actually matters in the standings as opposed to not.
I'm all for that.
Yes. And then the big thing would be an increase in playoff seeding. So instead of 6 teams per conference making it every year, it would be 7.
Wow.
And what would happen now is that first round would be 6 games, where it'd be 3 from each conference, and only the top seed in every conference would have that first round bye. And then from there, things would play out regularly. The second round would have 4 teams, and then the conference championships, and then the Super Bowl. On on paper, this sounds phenomenal.
Yes.
I think it's great for football. I think expanding the playoffs is terrific. Football is one of the hardest playoff sports there is in terms of getting in. It's only 12 out of the 32 teams. This would increase that to 14. A lot of teams that are on the bubble would get in. It also makes that number 1 seed that much more important.
Yes.
The idea of home field throughout the playoffs. So for me, and it might be a thing where, you don't have a lower seed winning a Super Bowl for a while. It took a very long time for the last playoff seeding change before teams kind of figured out how they could go on a deep, deep run. Teams like the Steelers and the Giants, of course, winning from Super Bowls from lower seeds. Lee, I think this is a good thing. I know a lot of the players are concerned because of, obviously, health, and now playing more important games means that's one more game that they're going to have to give their all.
Yeah.
But on paper, and again, I don't know if you solve this by maybe having a second bye week introduced at some point, and maybe starting the season a week earlier in the summer, but the preseason, I mean. But I think this is... I like this idea, but I also do understand why some of the players are on the fence about it.
Sure. So let's take it one thing at a time. So in terms of the extra game and eliminating a preseason game, as a fan of the NFL, I have no problem with this. I like it. Preseason's a very boring time to me. If you're not super into your team, and I'm not knocking people that are, but if you're not super into that and seeing the whole 100+ man roster, it's just baseball season at that time, right? So I'm okay with that. In terms of the athletes being concerned about playing an extra game, this is my take. As a former athlete, I empathize with the thought. As a former GM and coach, you are paid an incredible amount of money to showcase your skill. This will bring in a lot of revenue for your teams, and I don't have a problem with it. Okay, I don't think one extra game. I'm a hockey player. I was a former hockey player. They play 82 games. I've been in seasons where I've played 40, 50, 60 games. I don't really have a lot of empathy for football players who play 16 games, or 17 games. I know how hard it is in terms of I understand how hard these guys play. It's going to be tough for me to think, oh, this is tough on them. Especially now with the new rules with, if the concussion stuff hadn't happened, I'd say this is excessive. All right, but we're in a new NFL now. So I'm completely for that. When you get to the playoff side of things, I think I'm 85% for it. And here's why. Because it eliminates a few things. It eliminates that conversation every year. It's like, is a 7-9 team going to make the playoffs? Which I hate.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, so there won't be any discussion on that now. What'll happen is those teams will just get in and it won't be screwing somebody else over. Yep. Right? Or you'll have multiple teams there that probably don't belong there and they'll get eliminated. Okay?
Yeah.
Or they won't. They'll hit stride at the right time. I love NFL football. I love the NFL playoffs. I don't like that 2 teams get a bye. I've never liked that. Yeah. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I know, and then it's just 2 games to the Super Bowl. That just never seemed right to me. I think 3 rounds makes a lot of sense. For teams, for all teams, except for if one team gets a bye, that makes sense to me, right? You've kind of, like you said, right? You've earned it, right? Yeah. It also makes the last week of the NFL season that much more exciting, right? Because 2 teams are getting in, not just one. Yeah, I would not mind seeing them try this. Yeah, it's also a cash grab. I fully admit that, right? Yeah. But it's also I think everybody wins. Fans get more football. Players will probably be able to negotiate their contracts to get a little bit more. Right. And the teams will get more fans. They'll get a whole other game of revenue.
An actual regular season game versus a preseason game worth of revenue is astronomical.
I do also want to say that this is also a response to the attendance going down over the last few years for multiple reasons. I'm not going to talk about them. But this is also a way for them to recoup some of that money. All right. And again, so yeah, I'm okay with this. It doesn't bug me. Obviously, if you're listening, let us know what you think. Traditionalists or heads are going to explode, as always, anytime there's change. Yeah. But I'm all for it. I'm not against it. I think the XFL has kind of opened up the door for the NFL to be like, maybe we'd be flexible with some things.
Yeah, I mean, and I actually, we've talked about this before. I'd love to see some rule changes in the NFL reflected from the XFL. Actually, Greg Olson, tight end now, I believe. Is he in Seattle now? I think he left the Panthers in the offseason, free agent. Greg Olson was color commentator on the XFL, and he was like, these new kickoffs are fun. Yeah. Like, he kind of was, like, blatantly said it. Like, I mean, this would be something that I think a lot of the players would actually be, like, for. Because it makes, again, when we talked about this before, it makes the kickoffs relevant. And speaking of XFL kickoffs, the first XFL kickoff was returned for a touchdown this weekend.
It was.
Against my New York Guardians, who crapped the bed again. Yes. They've now, the Guardians are 1-2. They are 0-2 on the road, scoring a total of 9 points on the road. So thankfully, they'll be home next week. Yeah, it's really bad. Also, real quick, one interesting thing about the NFL is that I imagine that with the odd number of games, is that teams would rotate who has 9 home games and who has 8 every year.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, big weekend for the XFL. The Houston Roughnecks beat the Tampa Bay Vipers. Tampa Bay is still winless. Houston is the last undefeated team now after the DC Defenders could not do it on the road against LA, much like the Guardians couldn't do it against St. Louis. By the way, St. Louis is becoming like it's like the Arrowhead in Kansas City. It is sold out. It is sold out. It is loud. The Guardians' offense looked in shambles. Absolutely, they looked completely out of touch with everything that was going on. And just like as you would expect from a Kevin Gilbride run team, the Guardians look to be a complete mess and a disaster right now. But the Battlehawks look legit. They're 2-1 now after dropping their opener. Again, they returned a kickoff for a touchdown with a little end around. You're starting to see some trickery. We saw some double forward passes this week.
Yeah, it's evolving. It's finally starting to evolve.
Yes, you can see it. People are starting to play with the rules a little bit. But yeah, the LA Wildcats in what is now the biggest blowout in XFL history.
In the history. Solid. In the history. Of the XFL, there has never been a blowout this big of 30 points ever. To my DC Defenders, who have, I just want to say this, their first loss in the history of the DC Defenders. First loss ever on the road against the LA Wildcats.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a big deal because now the Wildcats are obviously still in contention.
Everyone is,
getting that win. They're 1-2. Their offense looks better than it has in a while. It looks like they're starting to click. And I mean, everybody's still in it except for probably Tampa Bay. Still.
This is what's funny. If you were to rank the teams by their logo and team colors and how awesome they look on the field, the Vipers would be at the bottom. Yeah. Okay, and again, Houston might be up there at the top. They have a pretty cool logo.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of pays a little bit of homage to the old Oilers in a way, they're undefeated. I mean, and now look, top 2 teams it's only an 8-team league. Top 2 teams from each division make the playoffs.
One round to the championship game.
Yeah, so there's plenty of time left. There's still 7 weeks left. Obviously, nobody's eliminated yet. But being 0-3 does not look good for Tampa Bay. And the Dallas Renegades came back against the Seattle Dragons. Seattle was up 12-6 at halftime, but like most Jim Zorn teams as well, they fell apart in the second half, and the Renegades were able to wear them down and came back, and obviously one of the better running games in the league, and they were able to take advantage of that. So it was a good weekend, and like Lee said, it looks like things are starting to evolve. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say watching the XFL is as big or is as high on my priority list as watching the NFL is, but I enjoy the fact that it's on. I enjoy the fact that there's 2 games each day of the weekend, and I can see every game if I want to.
It's fun to watch. It is fun football to watch, especially because you don't have to watch it the whole time.
Yes.
So with that said, Ray, you have the Wildcats. New York Guardians take on the Wildcats this weekend. That's Saturday at 2 p.m.
Yeah,
that should be an interesting game.
LA has to travel to New York, so I'm really hoping they're tired.
But it'll be an interesting game. Apparently, my dog agrees with me as I go completely nuts in the background. Chewy. Sorry about that. He's a big DC Defenders fan. Chewy.
Yeah.
So DC Defenders here, okay, are going to be taking on the Tampa Bay Vipers, so it's a big game for them. Excuse me for one moment, please.
Yes.
Chewy.
Yeah, it should be.
I am on a podcast here, young man. Chewy, come here. All right. For those of you listening at home, comment below if you're a fan of Chewy.
Yeah.
All right. We do these in our offices, and I have an office dog or two. That's all we'll say. So DC Defenders take on the Tampa Bay Vipers in a must-win game for the Defenders. It's also a must-win game for the Vipers, if you think about it.
I was going to say, if the Vipers go 0-4, then they might be out of playoff contention.
That's probably a bigger game than people realize. Like that, they need to win that game. And then Dallas actually takes on Houston for the division lead. And then St. Louis will take on Seattle, and that's another top versus bottom matchup. Look, if we've known anything, you never know what's going to happen in the XFL now. It's pretty cool. Like we don't.
Yeah, I thought DC was going to kill LA, and LA came out. Josh Johnson just throwing the deep ball, and DC got caught flat-footed.
Yeah, absolutely. So another great week, and again, looking forward to week 4. And I really think it's going to come into its own this weekend. I'm excited to see what's happening. Like you said, teams are trying stuff now. The game is evolving, and again, with no preseason now, you're going to start to see some league leaders come out. You're going to start to see some show-stopping performances now in the XF.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see running backs pick it up. You're starting to see receivers really kind of stand out. You're starting to see some guys. I mean, and this was interesting also. Again, Greg Olson talking about how, like, some of these guys could play in the NFL.
Yeah.
Or they didn't get a proper shake. And, like, I'm sure that there are NFL scouts out there who are at least giving a cursory glance at some of these games just to be like, hey, maybe we can sign this guy as a third tight end or
think
a backup
they're doing
running
more
back.
than that. Right. I think they're doing a lot more than that. And I'll tell you why. Because this is experience now.
Yeah.
It's not just college; it's experience. I mean, this could be a feeder league to the NFL, and I think that is the way it's designed. And again, you could potentially do both if you really wanted to. We'll see if that ever happens. Probably not. Do you know if they allowed for trades in the XFL?
Yes, because that's actually what happened with the DC Defender linebacker Anthony Johnson was traded for a receiver to LA. So it was actually a bit of a homecoming for those two guys because they kind of got to play their old team that was traded, basically traded.
Wow.
Or at least they insinuated that it was a trade or an unofficial trade because it seemed that when Anthony Johnson was let go by LA, Washington picked him up, and then Washington let go of a receiver that LA picked up. So it kind of ended up. I don't know if it was an official trade, but it felt like a trade.
Yeah.
Because they don't really talk about that. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is trades can make a difference.
Just
trades can make good transition.
Trades can make a big difference, and there was a lot of trades this week. If you're a fan of hockey, thank you for the setup. So it was the NHL Trade Deadline this weekend, this weekend into Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time was the deadline, and a lot of things came in under the wire. My Rangers, not as active as some of us expected. A lot of other teams were very, very active. A lot of wholesale people, the Canadians basically just let go of almost everybody.
Yeah, Nate Thompson to the Flyers, yep.
And also they also traded Marco Scandella, who they acquired in Montreal acquired a bunch of folks at the beginning of January, like, we're going to make a run. And then they didn't. And so, like, all right, everybody we traded for, we're going to trade you elsewhere. Gone. You're gone. Goodbye. So that happened with Montreal. Montreal probably, I mean, they're not obviously mathematically done, but me and Lee talked about this a little bit yesterday off the air. Obviously, we were talking about how there's like a line right now about teams that actually have a possible chance of making the playoffs, and there's a line of teams that are there's no shot, and Montreal's on the wrong side of that line.
Yeah.
I think they're 9 points back of a playoff spot. Like, I don't think that they're.
It's unacceptable for them. They have a good goaltender. There's just something wrong with that, whatever they're drinking up there, in terms of the organizational mix.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Montreal, beautiful city.
They made some dumb decisions, like even just years ago when they let Subban go for Weber.
Yeah,
it was just like, why would you trade a Norris Trophy winner? And for the best I can gather, it's just he was too loud for the team, which is complete BS.
Yeah,
PK Subban is like a great ambassador for hockey. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah,
right. He's no more loud than the loudest NFL player, except he's respectful.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
guy donates money to hospitals and stuff. That was for me what changed the trajectory of the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I mean, and no, it's true. It's true. They haven't been the same since. And then speaking of Subban, who he's on the Devils. The Devils got rid of almost everybody. They had a fire sale.
As they should, because they're horrible. The Devils are a horrible hockey team this year. They're really, really bad.
Yeah, Andy Green went to the Islanders and immediately got hurt. And then and they sent Sami Vatanen to Carolina.
Yep.
They were moving a lot of pieces.
Wayne Simmons to Buffalo.
Simple.
They need to rebuild.
Exactly. And speaking of Subban, another Subban, a big last-second trade. Malcolm Subban of the Vegas Knights was traded as part of the trade for Robin Lehner to the Blackhawks.
Yep.
Which actually makes a lot of sense. Both Lehner and Crawford were free agents at the end of the year for Chicago. Subban has proven to be a solid goaltender in Vegas, backing up Marc-Andre Fleury. Might get a chance now to really show his stuff in Chicago, whereas Lehner could obviously now split time with the aging Marc-Andre Fleury to probably try and give Vegas another run at the Cup in the very tight
Lehner's not too young either, but like I said, a lot of these are probably personal moves or better fits for different teams, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like, here's a quick stat for you, Ray. This NHL trade deadline actually set a record for most trades in NHL history at a deadline.
Wow.
A lot of people don't realize that. I think the amount of players moved was a tie, but the amount of trades was at an all-time high. Because a lot of these trades were also for just picks and future considerations. But, a lot of moves in the NHL at the NHL trade deadline, and as Ray said at the top of the segment, there really is a playoff line, and you have a few teams struggling, and both the East and West are pretty tight when you look at those wild card teams. I will say this, the Metropolitan Division just went crazy. I mean, most of these moves were to the Metropolitan Division and two teams in playoff contention. We're talking about the Capitals picking up Kovalchuk. Right, we're talking about Penguins picking up Marlowe. I'm just going down the list here. The Flyers picked people up. Carolina picked a lot of people up.
Peugeot was traded to the Islanders by the Senators.
I mean, it was a lot of Metropolitan teams picking up players, which is really awesome. I mean, the Metropolitan is quickly becoming, again, the best division in hockey, or as I like to call it, the Old Atlantic. But there's a different Atlantic division now. But, it's going to be a really cool run to the playoffs here. If you're not watching NHL hockey, this is the time to jump in. I said, there's been some amazing things happening in hockey. In fact, we do have to talk about this really quick. So last Saturday in Toronto. And so let me set the setting for you. It's the second period. Second period, both of Carolina's goalies are injured. So all NHL teams have something called an emergency backup, okay? And what that means is all 31 arenas have a person in the arena that should both goalies get hurt for either team, he gets to go in net. So it happened. In Toronto, both Carolina goalies were hurt. They were leading 3-1 at the time or 4-1 at the time. So David Ayres, a 42-year-old Zamboni driver who had a kidney transplant 15 years ago, which pretty much ended his chance at having a career, right? He's just been playing senior league. Gets the call into net in the second period. First two shots Toronto takes. Keep in mind, this is a Toronto employee. First two shots on net go in. And then he stops them the rest of the night, and the Carolina Hurricanes win the game, I think 6-3. All right?
6-3, yep.
One of the most unlikely scenarios. The man's been all over the news. He's kind of a hero in Carolina. It's an amazing situation. I mean, if you think about this is really the equivalent of like the Flyers asking me to come play, right? Just out of the blue. I mean, that is really what it's like. Right? I don't think that's an unfair comparison at all. And it's funny because people were ripping Toronto, probably rightly so. It's embarrassing to lose to legit a beer league goalie. All right. But here's the thing: Carolina played unbelievable the rest of that game.
Oh yeah, they played great in front of him. Yeah, exactly.
They were at a playoff pace. Number one. Number two is I remember after the second goal went in, one of the Carolina Hurricanes went up to the goalie and said, "Look, man, you can let in 10 goals. This happens. You can let in 2 goals. Just have fun out here. Just have fun. You're in the NHL. Have some fun." And apparently that really relaxed.
Settled him down. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is Toronto looked completely shell shocked because of this. And the GM of Toronto made a really great point. He says, "Look, this is a lose-lose scenario for us because no one's thinking about the adverse side of this. Let's just say Toronto comes out and puts in 10 goals on this guy. Now they're in the situation where they've beat up their own employee, right?
Yeah.
People will say that the guy threw the game to help Toronto. I mean, it would have ruined his life probably.
Yeah.
You know, and it isn't the thing. It's one game. It's disappointing that both goalies got hurt and it had to finish that way.
Yeah.
For Toronto, okay, but it's one game. It's 2 points. I know it's a tight race. Let's all relax a little bit here. Let's be happy for Ayers, who had the experience of a lifetime, and He's still on a crazy ride right now. He's been on Stephen Colbert. He was down in Carolina last night where they saluted him. Mm-hmm. He's been all over the place. In a really cool move, the Maple Leafs had him out to practice the night after he beat them.
Yeah.
Right. Which the day after that's a really cool move. That's the NHL for you. You know. And they told him, hey man, like no hard feelings. Obviously, you know it's pretty amazing what you did. That's how the NHL runs. I mean, just complete class all around. And people were losing their minds, and it's just a great hockey story all around. So that happened. It happened this weekend. Also want to give a quick shout out to the 1980 Olympic gold medal team on 40th anniversary of both defeating the Russians and winning the gold medal. Tremendous sports moment, really globally, but obviously in the United States and North America, that changed the face of hockey. Just wanted to acknowledge them because that team really did change my life in a lot of ways. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Back to you, Ray.
Yes, good call. And also, I mean, and people talk about this. This does not happen often in hockey. It's not unheard of. A guy named Scott Foster did this a couple of years ago for Chicago, where he came in. He's an accountant in Chicago. Like Lee said, he basically the same thing, like a beer league goalie who basically goes to the games as an emergency backup. Both of Chicago's goaltenders were one was out with the flu, the other one got hurt in mid-game. Came in.
It was late in the game, though. I think it was the third period when he came in. But yes.
I want to say either end of the second or beginning of the third.
It wasn't the same scenario, let me put it that way. But yes, it was similar.
But he faced 7 shots. He made all 7 saves, and he also got the win. So
it does happen. It happens.
It does happen occasionally. Probably if you want to go way back into the Wayback Machine in history, Lester Patrick, the famed New York Rangers coach, I believe in the 1928 Stanley Cup, at 44 years old, he was the Rangers' emergency goalie and had to go into the game in the middle of the Stanley Cup. So,
here's what's funny about Ayers is that when things like this happen, records are set. So he actually holds the record now for the oldest goalie to get his first win at 42.
Yeah.
So he's in the NHL rule book, a record book now for all time.
Yeah.
But he earned it. And it's
almost 30 minutes.
Situation.
He was on the ice for almost 30 minutes.
Half the game. Yeah. And again, Carolina did an unbelievable job. I mean, I think he only made 8 saves on 10 shots or something like that.
Yes, 8 saves on 10 shots. They blocked a lot. Most of the saves were from like shots from the point or the blue line. He did make a couple of good ones down close.
Yeah.
Like, there were a couple of solid ones where he got his pads down and made the saves. But
funny enough, the game ended on him gloving one. You can tell he was getting comfortable. The game ended with gloving a wrist shot. He held onto the puck. I was like, it's amazing. But good for him. I mean, it's a cool story.
Yes.
Go light on Toronto. That's not the problem with Toronto. Let me put it that way. That game is not what's wrong with Toronto.
No, yeah, but I mean, thankfully Toronto did win. They beat up on the Lightning last night because we talk about this. The Metropolitan is so stacked that there's going to be a team probably that has a better record than Toronto.
Yeah,
make the playoffs. Because of the way that the seeding works, where it's the top 3 and then 2 wild cards from the conference. And then it might even be my Rangers, because my Rangers right now, knock on wood, sorry Lee, are technically technically the hottest team in hockey. Rangers are 8-2 in their last 10, and streaking. Although I need to mention this, who let Igor Shesterkin drive?
Yes, in Brooklyn.
Who let the Russian kid drive in Brooklyn?
Why would you let someone drive in Brooklyn? That's a kid. Is a kid from Russia in Brooklyn. You don't let people drive in Brooklyn. You take the train.
Yeah, and also, I will say this: it was the other driver's fault. Like the dude made an illegal U-turn and basically crashed into him head on.
Of course it was. That's the whole point. You don't let people drive in Brooklyn.
Yes, also, and we talked about this yesterday. John Davidson, I love JD. That was the most, when I first started watching that press conference, my heart sank because he starts it off all serious where he's like, Last night in Brooklyn, there was a car accident involving two of our players, Igor Shesterkin and Pavel Buchevich. It was a head-on collision after another car made an illegal U-turn.
Pause.
Both players are day-to-day. It's like, Jesus, you buried the lead! You buried the lead, JD! Like,
yeah, you could have started out with, we have a couple players that are day-to-day after a car crash in Brooklyn involving a U-turn.
like, oh my God.
Nope.
The way he was so somber and so, it was just like, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God!
This is the guy who has some of the best color commentary calls of all time.
Yes,
and he botched that press conference horrendously.
And he knows better. He knows.
It reminds me when I moved to England. The first day I got to England, I lived in England for 3 years with my wife. We landed and we fly with our pets. And the woman comes out. And she goes, "So there's been a problem with your dogs."
Oh God!
And she just stopped. And she saw my face because I must have made a face of like, "Oh my God, did you kill my dogs?" Yeah. Says, no, they're all right. They're in quarantine because we haven't gotten your paperwork yet. And I was like, lady, don't ever do that to me again. There's been a problem with your dogs.
Yeah,
funny enough, there's two dogs next to me right now. They're sleeping.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chewy. Chewy almost
that or it's like a Disney movie. It's like your dogs are in India right now. We don't know how that happened.
On an adventure.
Yeah.
They ended up being okay, but man, that was come on, people. It's like I'll give you a good example of how to do this right. When my daughter's preschool calls, okay?
Yes.
When I pick up the phone, the woman says, "Hi, this is Lorianne. Your daughter's okay." Right away, first thing she says. Okay?
Yes.
And she says, and she always says that she tells us that because, like, I know if we see the call, we know something's. Hey, it's Lorianne. Your daughter's okay. And yes, that is how you should start the call. Or it goes, Hey, it's Lorianne. Your daughter's throwing up. I need you to come get her.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Not just hey, something's wrong with your child.
Yeah. No. There's. Yeah. Like. Oh, come on, guys.
All right.
Either way, anyway, hopefully both those guys get healthy soon because the Rangers are streaking after a big win last night on the island, beating the Islanders in overtime. Only 4 points back of the wild card.
It's almost as big as the Flyers winning 4 in a row.
No, it's true. I mean, look, it's very, and we play each other now twice in a home and home this weekend.
It's actually going to be probably more important for you than us, but they're going to be very important nonetheless.
Yes.
The Metropolitan Division is getting crazy right now. The 1, 2, 3 are all in striking distance of each other. The Rangers, here's what I'll say about the Rangers, is you got to keep winning. This is one of those things you lose 2 or 3 in a row, it's over.
It's over.
Right? But this is Manhattan, and magical things tend to happen in Manhattan. So I actually am wishing you the best of luck as long as they don't take the Flyers out.
No, yeah, I'm hopeful. Even I don't think we'll do anything in the playoffs, but I think especially with our team being so young,
I wouldn't say that.
Well,
if you go in hot, anything can happen.
Knock on wood. I mean, we'll see. Right. Knock on wood. I mean, but at the very least, I want to see these guys get the playoff experience because we are a very young team now. Yeah. The only moves the Rangers really made at the line was the trade deadline was they traded a AHL defenseman for Gauthier from Carolina, who's now on our third line as a winger, and then. They traded Brady Shea for a first-round pick to Carolina. Carolina really bolstered their defense, of course, at the trade deadline. And they re-signed Chris Kreider. I said this. 7
years, that's the future of your team now.
And I said this, on We Live Hockey, which is Lee's other group and podcast and show, where I was like, if the Rangers win the 3 games before the trade deadline and get close to that last playoff spot, they are not going to trade Kreider. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. They won all 3 of those games, and they signed him to. And they capitulated. I shouldn't say they completely capitulated. Kreider wanted 7 years, $49 million. The Rangers wanted to give him 6 years at like $40 million, which is like about 6.5 years instead of 7. They met in the middle. They agreed to basically like, okay, 7 years, but $45.5 million, which is $6.5 million a year instead of a full 7. And it was good to see that they came to that agreement. Kreider now will be signed now until he's age 35 as a New York Ranger. Obviously, he could be traded. There's other things that could happen along.
Look, it's a commitment to the future to a player that was brought up there, which is really cool. Also, they did say that negotiation went very well. Like there was no problems with it. The sad note on all of this with the Rangers is that they really have started winning since they moved Lundqvist out of the picture. Take that for what it is. I don't think he's a bad locker room guy, but you don't know. But the team is definitely moving on, and he was not traded at the deadline. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. He might not. He might have said, "I don't want to move." And also with Igor being injured in the car accident, now he's actually a viable player on the team again.
Yes, Georgiev got the start last night in the Island, but with the Rangers playing back-to-back games against Montreal and Philadelphia Thursday and Friday, it will probably be Lundqvist is going to get one of those starts.
Well, Lundqvist will play against Philadelphia. He always does well against Philadelphia.
Probably.
So it'll be interesting to see. Exciting time in the NHL again. If you're not a big NHL fan and you want to get into it, now's a good time to start jumping in, especially if you're on the East Coast.
Yes.
Because all of the California teams are bad this year somehow. But hockey. Looking forward to it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about it a lot more in the coming weeks. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, no complaints here. Yeah. Also very big. Just briefly touch on this. The life celebration of Kobe Bryant yesterday in LA was very, very touching. Michael Jordan made the joke about that he is now going to revive the crying Jordan meme. Yep. But it was a great celebration, and so we talked about it. We talked about it here a lot on the show. Obviously, very, very sad what happened with Kobe and his daughter, but just wanted to briefly mention that.
I did want to say, too, that Gianna Bryant getting up there and speaking about her husband and daughter was incredibly brave and hard to do.
You mean Vanessa?
I'm sorry, I meant to say Vanessa. I apologize. Yeah, so the wife and the mother of Kobe and Gianna. I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly touching, but also very brave of her to get up there and speak to all those people. Michael Jordan's speech, it was phenomenal. I mean, he talked about living in the moment and how Kobe was a little brother to him. Again, I told you this thing hit me pretty hard when it happened. So it was very nice to see something like that. I'm sure it gave people outside the family closure that probably needed some closure. The family will never get closure. It was touching. As you said, it was a great event. I was happy to see it. It was very, very, very well done.
Yes. Speaking of something that's not, how about something that's not well done though? Fury versus Wilder.
Yes.
I mean, first off, boxing's a dead sport. I'm sorry, it is. It doesn't matter. But what was it? The dude.
Here's the deal.
Wilder,
whoa. Yeah, before you get into it, look. So Fury won. That's all you need to know. Okay, yeah. Fury won the fight by knockout. Okay, TKO.
Yeah.
What we want to talk about is Wilder saying that he was bad that night because of his 40-pound costume when he had to walk to the ring.
Yeah.
He's blaming that, saying it gave him shaky legs. So I'm not even going to argue how ridiculous that is from a physical standpoint of a top athlete when you have other people like in the army having to wear way heavier stuff for days at a time.
Yeah.
What a stupid ploy to get a rematch, right?
Yeah.
Also, why would you admit that? Like, why would you admit that you made a mistake in the ring entrance?
Ugh.
What are you doing?
I mean, it's boxing desperately trying to get attention somehow because now they're trying to do like wrestling tactics and all this other stuff. I mean, again, it's a dead sport. It's like nobody cares. It's just like
that's unfortunate too. Yeah,
no, it is very sad. But MMA's taken over in terms of the top combat sport in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't matter. I mean, like Lee said, Fury won. Wilder was bleeding from his ear. His in the 7th round. His corner wisely threw the towel in, and that was it. And it's like, okay,
it wasn't because of the costume. You just got beat.
Yeah, dude, you literally got your brain rattled. Like
Wilder also said he could beat Mike Tyson in his prime. So just take
and again, this is why boxers are idiots. It's like, I mean, not all of them, but like that's the dumbest. Like that's just so stupid to say. Like I mean, that's like Ottavino for the Yankees saying he could strike out Babe Ruth. It's like shut up.
Yeah, why would you say
shut
that?
up.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So moving on from that, we wanted to announce that he wore a superhero costume, and that's why he lost the fight.
Yeah, wink, wink. Be a bunch of BS. But anyway, so that got us thinking. What would be? So this is our question of the week. What would be the worst or most difficult cosplay to wear to a convention?
Yes.
There's a lot. Like I've seen guys dressed as Optimus Prime in like full like 8-foot tall costumes like on stilts and stuff. I imagine those would be absolutely terrible to wear. You get a lot of attention. Yeah. Everybody sees you. I mean, you look great, but holy cow, that's got to be difficult and also uncomfortable. I know I've just worn masks and stuff, and I start sweating and all that stuff. I had to take my Sonic hat off from earlier just because of how sweaty how uncomfortable it was already getting. Yeah, like I mean, it just so I mean, I could only imagine what some of the worst could be. But I would say probably anybody who dresses like a life-size Autobot or Decepticon. Lee, what are your thoughts?
Well, here's the thing. I am not a cosplayer. I have no problem with cosplayers, but like I'm typically the guy at a Star Trek, Star Wars, Comic-Con convention in my, hat and athletic stuff. Right? That's me. That's just me. I'm just the guy walking around like sports. It looks like I like sports, but I'm actually really into the stuff there and probably more knowledgeable than most people. Quick side story. I remember one time Ray and I were at Star Wars Celebration, and this guy ran up to me, and he was just like, "What do you even know about Star Wars?" And Ray and I was like, "Dude, you're making a mistake." Yeah. Right? And he started quizzing me, and I knew every answer. And he's like, it was like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy with Ronan the Accuser. He's like, "You're mortal. How?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Because I'm a Guardian of the Galaxy, bitch." Right? Like, it's just so, the guy was so demoralized he had to give me a prize. Do you remember that?
Yes, I know. That was great. It was great. I mean, that's the thing. Like, well, because even me, like, yeah, I'll have a Star. Like, most of the time, I'll have I had like a Star Wars shirt on each day or whatever. When you go to a convention, most people, you should go to be comfortable. You're gonna be on your feet probably a lot of the day. You're gonna be walking around like shorts and a t-shirt. Like it just. I don't know. It just makes sense.
Well, the thing is this. I think the other big thing is like don't reverse bully. That doesn't like I I think what happens is they saw me and I look like a jock. All right? I look like an athlete. Yeah. And I think that it was like a reversal of like, oh, I'm going to show this guy. It's like, dude, I'm one of you. What are you doing? Yeah. I'm one of you, man. I used to sit with people like this at lunch all the time. So anyway, funny story. When it comes to cosplay, so I think number one is vision. Like anything that disrupts your vision is going to be a problem because I'm there to see things. So that's number one. Then number two is, like you said, bulky costume. So the most recent cosplay hoopla that I've seen is that General Grievous costume, which is unfortunately 10 years too late. But it's also really awesome. But there's no way that guy can see, right? We've seen people in the Jabba blow-ups. We saw a guy in a Darth Bane costume who just was miserable. You could tell. Yes. Right? So... I'm gonna make some up here. I think if anybody ever came in the bat suit that he used to try and fight Superman from Batman versus Superman, that would be a little hard. I'm not even sure how Batman was operating that suit. Yeah. Then there's like the Iron Man suit, which again, Tony Stark, obviously that thing has artificial power that helps him move, right? Which no one understands. But like, I don't know. I'd feel pretty boss if I was walking around in an Iron Man suit at a Comic-Con. Especially that kid made the one that like when he opens his arms, that like the rockets on the back pop out and but like I said, I want to be comfortable with these things. That's why I'm the way I am. But like I think anything that blocks your vision and weighs a lot, your back's gonna be hurting the next day. Yeah. By the way, with that said, the best cosplay costumes, the best is any handicapped person that owns it and like does the Professor X thing or an X-Wing. I am such a fan of those. And the best part is seeing those kids smile. It just really is an amazing, cool thing to see. I just want to shout out any handicapped cosplayer out there. You are awesome.
Yes, no, for sure. I mean, there's an image circulating now on the internet of the of a quadriplegic dressed as the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yeah. After he's had all his limbs cut off.
Yeah, I mean that's unbelievable.
You guys are awesome. You're terrific. I mean, anybody who cosplays at a convention, who is willing to go that far to show off their fandom, is great and amazing, and we appreciate and love all of you. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
I'll tell you just a real quick story because I know we're out of time. But I remember I was working a sports camp one time that works for the show. I was in Washington D.C. and I can't remember who it was, but it was a player from the Washington Redskins was there. And we had a camper who was handicapped. He was in a wheelchair. And this changed my life. I remember the football player went up to him, gave him an autograph, and talked to him for a few minutes. And as he was walking away, the football player, the kid in the wheelchair turned to me. This kid can't walk. And he meant this. He says, "Lee, don't you just wish you were me right now?" right? And it was kind of an eye-opening moment for me because I'm thinking to myself that this kid can't walk, and he was serious. You know what I mean? Like that, he meant what he said. He was on cloud 9, and it really gave me a perspective this young man never was able to walk, so he's never understood what it means to walk,
right?
And that wasn't a thing for him in that moment. That wasn't a handicap for him. You know what I mean? Right. And then B, it made me think about obviously how fortunate anyone who can walk is, right? And then how powerful sports and Star Wars and everything is to everyone. I mean, it brought this young man so much comfort in that moment. Really opened my eyes to what sports and geekdom can do, right? Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, when you go to if you go to a show and you see one of those cosplayers in a wheelchair, I mean, and you going up to them and saying how awesome they look means a ton to them, a ton.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, all cosplayers really, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
I just thought it was touching, and again, I wanted to mention that story because it really did change the way I think about things.
Yeah. No, it's a good story. It's a very good story. But yeah, so that's gonna. So again, tell us what you would think would be the worst cosplay. Let us know. Comment below as always. Email.
Let's do another couple hours, right? Let's keep going.
geekswholikesport@gmail.com.
I don't want to go back to work.
Yeah, I know.
Let's just keep going.
I gotta do work.
You'll keep listening, right? If we keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't live. Well, thanks for listening so far. I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, one of these, we should get a live radio show. We could call up Sirius Satellite Radio. They need programming.
We'll just do 6 hours straight.
Yes.
We tuned into Geeks Who Like Sports Radio on Sirius XM in New York.
We could do it. We could do
Thomas
it.
Wayne, you're on the line. Yes, my son's pregnant with his girlfriend who I don't approve of. Thomas, how are you even alive? I'm from an alternate universe. How they'll eventually retcon this.
Yeah, oh God.
Is Martha alive? Why did you say that name?
Well, that does it for this week's episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, we appreciate it. Spread the word. Please, we're Geeks Who Like Sports at gmail.com. We're Geeks Who Like Sports on Facebook. Geeks Who Like SP1 on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe. We're at episode 45. We're almost at episode 50. We've been doing this for almost a full year now. This is
actually, we've been doing this for like 15 years, but
well, technically that's true. Me and Lee have been doing this for we've been doing this for as long as we've known each other. We just started to finally start recording it. But we appreciate everybody who supports us and who's been listening. We as always it means a lot. Until next time, for Lee, I'm Ray. This has been episode number 45 of Geeks Who Like Sports. We will talk to you all next week. Take it easy, everybody.